that your girlfriend was killed and your baby was kidnapped.
I knew my girl was gone.
Yeah.
You feel me? Gone.
She say, your daughter Kamiya was born, 7 pounds, 8 ounces. So I asked her what the bad news was. She said your daughter was kidnapped. As far as I knew about kidnapping, it only happened on TV and movies. It did a lot to me because I felt like I didn't do my job to protect her or Kamiya.
I cannot breathe. I don't know where they're going. I just know I woke up in this fucking truck.
That voice you just heard was Arcola, NBA YoungBoy's baby mother, crying out for help in a moment that turned deadly. The situation connects to Tekashi 692, whose own family faced danger, and to another case where someone dropped off their daughter with her mother, only for that child to vanish without a trace. These stories hit hard and show how fast things can spiral when trust gets broken in the worst way.
And guess what? He called me this morning.
That's what's up.
That's all I'm gonna say.
In this video, we're diving into cases involving rappers whose family members were taken by someone close to them, even their own relatives. First up is Young Lay, and his story is straight up heartbreaking in a way that still shocks people today. Young Lay's story stands as one of the darkest moments ever tied to Bay Area rap history. On May 17, 1996, 17-year-old Daphne Marie Boyden, an honor student and a brand new mother, was attacked inside her grandmother's home in Vallejo, California. She was shot multiple times, and then the person responsible tried to cover it up by setting the house on fire. But it didn't stop there. As flames took over the home, the attacker walked out carrying her newborn son, Laja Damar Williams, who was only a few weeks old, and vanished into the night without a trace. Neighbors reported seeing 2 teenage girls rushing away with a bundled-up baby while smoke poured from the windows. That chilling moment became the last confirmed sighting of little Laja for more than 6 long years. At the time, Young Lay was locked up, completely cut off from the outside world. He learned about Daphne's death and his son's disappearance while behind bars, stuck in a situation where he couldn't search, couldn't act, and couldn't protect his own family. All he had left was a fragile hope, barely holding on that his son was still out there somewhere, alive and waiting to be found. It was the kind of uncertainty that eats at you every single day, especially when you have no way to search or even know where to begin. And the truth behind it all made the situation even more shocking. This wasn't about street beef or rival crews going at each other. The people responsible were teenage girls, and at the center of it was 15-year-old Latasha Brown. She was Young Lay's ex-girlfriend, and reports say she became overwhelmed with jealousy after Daphne had his child. For months, she had been telling people that she was actually the baby's mother, pushing a story that wasn't real. There were even indications she may have been dealing with pseudocyesis, a serious condition where someone truly believes they're pregnant when they're not.
She said, I have good news and I have bad news. I said, what's the good news? Because I'm already in jail, what can be worse than me?
She didn't act alone either. Her cousin, Oceana Williams, helped carry out the attack, and things went even deeper when Brown's own mother, Dolores Ann Brown, later helped hide the child. After everything happened, the baby was raised in secret for over 6 years, living just 2 miles from where his mother lost her life. He was given a false name and even had a forged birth certificate to back it up. The case gained national attention, showing up on programs like America's Most Wanted and Unsolved Mysteries. Then, in November 2002, everything changed. An anonymous tip pointed Vallejo police straight to Latasha Brown, who was now 22 and had been raising the child as her own the entire time. DNA testing confirmed the truth, and at 6 years old, Laja was finally found and reunited with his real family. Latasha Brown was finally held accountable in 2004, convicted of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and arson, and sentenced to 37 years to life. She later tried to challenge the outcome, but her appeal was denied in 2006, closing that chapter in a case that had already caused so much damage. What makes this even more intense is how it connects back to Young Lay himself. In 1998, long before the case was widely solved, he named his album Unsolved Mysteries as a direct reflection of his son's disappearance. That wasn't just a title, it was his real life playing out in the worst way. Years later, a January 2026 TV One documentary revisited everything, finally giving Young Lay a chance to speak publicly for the first time in over 25 years. And when he spoke about his son, it was simple but powerful. He said his son had called him that morning, and for him, that was everything. Now shift to another story that hits just as hard, if not harder.
I don't know, it was like breathtaking. Like, you know, I swear she looked to me like Shannara. She just looked beautiful.
Big Aiken and Kamiya Mobley were separated for 18 years. Read that again. Not 18 days. Not 18 months, but 18 full years before a father could finally see his daughter in person for the first time. Kamiya Mobley was born on July 10, 1998, at University Medical Center in Jacksonville, Florida. Her mother, Shara Mobley, was just 15 years old at the time, and her father, Craig Aiken, a local Jacksonville rapper, was incarcerated on drug charges when his daughter entered the world. Then, only hours after her birth, everything changed. A woman named Gloria Williams walked into that hospital wearing scrubs and a floral smock, moving with the confidence of someone who looked like she belonged there. She spent time gaining the young mother's trust, talking and building a connection. Then, in a moment that shocked everyone later, she simply walked out of the hospital carrying the newborn. Staff assumed she was family, no one questioned it, and by the time anyone realized what had happened, it was already far too late. Craig Aiken learned two life-changing things on the exact same day while sitting inside a jail cell. An officer approached him, and he asked what the good news was. But what came next was something no parent is ever ready to hear. Gloria Williams, the woman behind it all, had recently gone through a miscarriage while dealing with an abusive relationship. And instead of seeking help, she made a decision that changed multiple lives forever. She took the baby and tried to replace what she had lost. She didn't stop there either. She forged documents, created a completely new identity, and raised Kamiya in Walterboro, South Carolina, under the name Alexis Kelly for 18 straight years without interruption. Everything stayed hidden until January 2017. When Kamiya turned 18 and tried to apply for a job that required official identification, that's when things started to fall apart. Williams refused to hand over the proper documents, and that refusal raised serious questions.
Oh man, you just can't give up. You know, sometimes it was like 8 in the morning, and the U.S. Marshal said, "We found her. We need you to get out here."
Those cracks turned into a full investigation after a tip reached authorities, and once DNA testing was done, the truth finally came out. She was alive, she was safe, and after nearly 2 decades, she was finally going back to her real family. In June 2018, Gloria Williams was sentenced to 18 years in prison. She later tried to get that sentence reduced, but the request was denied in 2022. That same year, Craig Aiken released a music video titled Self-Therapy, featuring his daughter as part of their healing journey together. Their story even reached the screen with the Lifetime film Stolen by My Mother, the Kamiya Mobley story, bringing attention to what happened. Taken from a hospital room within just hours of her birth, and after 18 long years, she finally made it home. Now shifting to another name that carries weight in a different way, Traytha. Truth has built a reputation in Houston, not just through music, but through real action. He shows up for his community again and again, bringing food to disaster zones, giving out toys during the holidays with his own money, and supporting people without looking for attention. He stays consistent, even when it costs him personally, always stepping in when people around him need help the most. This is a man who built his entire reputation on protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. For years, he showed up, gave back, and stood on business when it came to his community. But in the summer of 2024, everything flipped in the worst way possible. The same man who spent over a decade helping others found himself completely powerless when it came to the one person who meant the most to him in this world. Traytha Truth had full legal and primary physical custody of his 6-year-old daughter, Truth Thompson, after a long history of custody battles with her mother, Heather Cuevas. The courts had limited her mother's access to weekend visits and sometime in the summer.
So about that, like, it's a lot of false narratives.
So on August 16th, 2024, when Trey dropped his daughter off for a scheduled visit, it felt routine. He hugged her, kissed her, and told her he'd love to see her on Sunday, but Sunday came and nothing happened. Cuevas never brought her back. Instead, she disappeared completely. She left behind her apartment, her vehicles, shut down her phone lines, and vanished without a trace, taking Truth with her. This quickly turned into a nationwide search. The FBI, U.S. Marshals, Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office, the Black and Missing Foundation, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children all got involved. trying to track them down. In September, private investigators reportedly spotted Cuevas and Truth in Los Angeles, but had to stop following due to safety concerns, making the situation even more tense. As the months dragged on, through holidays and sleepless nights, the uncertainty only grew. Trey didn't know where his daughter was sleeping, didn't know what she was being told, and didn't even know if she was okay. That kind of silence can weigh heavy, especially when it's your own child, and there's no clear way to reach them. New Year's Day, 2025, 8 in the morning, and everything finally changed. Truth was found near El Centro, California, right by the border with Mexico. After months of fear and unanswered questions, law enforcement located her, and Heather Cuevas was arrested on child endangerment charges right there on the spot. The moment Trey got the call, he didn't hesitate for even a second. He was out the door in under 20 minutes, racing to the airport, catching a flight to San Diego, then pushing through over 100 miles of desert just to reach his daughter. By mid-2025, things started to stabilize. Truth is now in therapy, taking it one day at a time right beside her father. And despite everything they went through, there's still light in their story. Trey even jokes that she runs the whole house now, and by his own words, he's loving every second of it. He got her a goat too, and every single morning, he's reminded exactly why he never gave up, not even for a moment. Now, here's a case that feels even more immediate and unsettling.
The reality of it, right, is that it was somebody that lives in the community because there was no car that came in, no car that came out.
Jamal White Jr., also known as SAR, and this situation was caught on camera in broad daylight, making it impossible to ignore. On July 11th, 2025, around 7 in the evening, 7-year-old Jamal White Jr. was riding his bike right outside his father's home near 61st and Hustis Street in Milwaukee's Wyrick Park neighborhood. Everything looked normal until it wasn't. A white Jeep Renegade was seen circling the block once, then again. That second time, it pulled into the driveway. 2 masked men jumped out, one of them holding a handgun. They rushed the child as he screamed for his father, grabbed him, and forced him into the back of the vehicle before speeding off heading east. It all happened in seconds, but the impact was immediate and devastating. His father, Jamal White Sr., a local aspiring rapper known online as Mal785, was nearby when it all went down. Security footage shows him reacting in real time, running toward the house as the danger unfolded, then coming back out in a moment filled with panic and helplessness. You can see the urgency, the confusion, and the pain hit all at once as the situation spiraled out of control. Once the white Jeep was already gone, speeding blocks away, everything flipped instantly. The situation exploded online with massive outrage, but at the same time, it was also filled with deep fear and grief. A child was now somewhere inside a moving vehicle, and nobody on the ground knew where it was headed or what would happen next. Jamal White Sr. later spoke out in a social media post trying to make sense of the chaos. He said, "I ran. I'm thinking they're trying to rob me, not take my damn baby." His words hit hard because it showed just how fast the situation escalated from confusion to pure panic. His aunt, Simone White, also stepped in publicly, asking the community for any information at all. She made it clear the family had no different answers about the motive and was desperately trying to bring Jamal Jr. home safely. As investigators dug deeper, the criminal complaint revealed something even more disturbing. The original plan wasn't even focused on the child at first. It was reportedly meant to target the boy's mother, who allegedly had connections that made her a target. But when that plan fell apart, the suspects changed course and went straight for Jamal Jr. instead, demanding $100,000 in cash plus jewelry for his return. Then came a rare moment of relief.
For sure. So yeah, I'm like really talking about how I grew up with my dad and just a lot of experiences that I've had.
On July 12th, 2025, less than 24 hours after the abduction, Jamal White Jr. was found safe just 7 miles from where he had been taken. 3 suspects were charged in connection to the case, including 14-year-old Barry Coleman, who was charged as an adult with bond set at $100,000. A judge later stated on record that the entire city of Milwaukee had essentially been held hostage for 24 hours by the situation. When the boy was finally home, Simone White expressed gratitude, saying, "We literally cannot thank the community enough. If it wasn't for everybody just caring, we probably would not have found him. He was just 7 years old, riding his bike right outside his own front door." And that detail alone makes the entire situation hit even harder. Because while chaos unfolded, the community reacted fast, pulling together in a way that showed real unity and urgency. It's a powerful contrast, a neighborhood coming together in response to something so devastating, proving how quickly people will move when a child's safety is on the line. Now shifting to one of the most high-profile names in all of this, Tekashi 6ix9ine, and the case that closes out this entire list. This situation is often pointed to as a clear example of the real cost that comes with being one of the most visible, controversial figures in modern music, always in the spotlight and always surrounded by tension. On the night of November 16th, 2025, 4 masked, armed men forced their way into 6ix9ine's home in the Wellington area of Palm Beach County, Florida. All 4 were dressed in black, and they entered through the garage with precision. The first person they encountered inside was his 60-year-old mother, Natividad Perez Hernandez. She was taken outside at gunpoint and held there while the rest of the group moved through the house. What followed was a fast, targeted robbery. They took a $25,000 diamond necklace, earrings, luxury handbags, cash, and other high-value items totaling tens of thousands of dollars. By the time deputies arrived, the suspects were already gone. His mother was not physically harmed, but being held at gunpoint inside your own home leaves a mark that doesn't show up on any medical report. At the time of the invasion, Tekashi was not even inside the house.
For the tragic loss of our son, Nathan Smith. His mother, Nicole Smith, and I are very much devastated.
He was live streaming with YouTuber Jack Doherty when everything unfolded in real time elsewhere. So, security footage obtained by TMZ showed exactly how those 4 men moved through the house, step by step, no guessing needed. And it also showed exactly how they handled his mother during the entire invasion, making the situation even more disturbing when you see it play out in real time. By December 2025, 19-year-old Pedro Rodriguez had already been arrested after phone data and recovered stolen items placed him directly at the scene. That kind of digital trail doesn't lie, and it tied him right into the investigation in a serious way. His charges stacked up fast, including home invasion, robbery with a firearm, false imprisonment of the mother, and grand theft. Then another arrest followed in February 2026, showing the case was still expanding. At least 2 other suspects were still on the run as of the latest updates. And the questions kept spinning online. Was this tied to old beefs from the streets? Was it connected to his federal cooperation history that the internet never stops debating? Or was it something even simpler, but just as dangerous, the result of living a loud, fully public life inside a gated home while streaming every move to millions of viewers who are watching everything in real time? Or was it just the predictable outcome of a lifestyle where privacy is almost gone, and every detail gets broadcast to a massive audience, some of whom see opportunity in every moment they observe online? That's where things start getting uncomfortable to think about. Whatever the full truth turns out to be, the impact landed somewhere else entirely, on his mother. A woman who cooked meals for guests her son brought around, someone who stayed outside all the noise of fame and controversy. She had nothing to do with the world he was navigating, nothing to do with the choices that built that environment around him. And yet she was the one standing in her own front yard with a gun pointed at her face on a Sunday night in November. That image alone carries weight, and that's the real meaning behind this entire list. Not the headlines, not the clips going viral, not the online talk. It's the weight underneath all of it, the part that hits people who never ask for fame but end up caught right in the middle of it anyway, just for being close to someone who is common. This story is rarely talked about at the level it deserves, and what happened goes all the way back before he could even form a single memory in his mind. Born Lonnie Rashid Lynn Jr. on March 13, 1972, in Chicago, Illinois, he was just about 18 months old when his mother, Mahia Ann, suddenly found herself in a nightmare situation no one could imagine.
I cannot breathe. I don't know where they're going. I just know I woke up in this fucking truck.
Out of nowhere, she was wrapped up with her baby and staring directly into the barrel of a gun. The man holding it was none other than Common's biological father, Lonnie Lynn Sr., a former ABA basketball player for the Denver Rockets. But at that point in his life, he wasn't the man people once knew. He was deep into drug and alcohol addiction, and it had completely changed his behavior. According to Common's 2011 memoir, One Day It'll All Make Sense, Lonnie Sr. had a disturbing and delusional plan. He believed that if he could present a perfect family image with his wife and child beside him, he might land a professional opportunity with the Seattle Supersonics. So he took them at gunpoint. He strapped 18-month-old Lonnie Rashid Lynn Jr. into the front seat of a car and forced his mother into the back, both restrained as he drove west on Interstate 90 towards Seattle. And the terrifying part, he was reportedly under the influence the entire time, treating every stop along the way like part of a controlled situation, even while keeping them under threat. Common has since described his father as someone who could be deeply loving when sober, but completely unrecognizable when he wasn't, showing just how fractured and unpredictable that reality really was. When the drugs took over, what was behind that steering wheel wasn't just a struggling man anymore. It was the most unstable version of someone who, on his clearest days, clearly cared about his family. And in that moment, the only thing standing between a toddler and a completely unthinkable outcome was his mother. She stayed composed, razor-focused, and fully locked in on one goal.
Yeah, everybody can unfollow me. I don't even really be on this page like that.
Getting her son out of that situation alive. She noticed an opening and used it. When Lonnie said she had a headache, he stepped out to get painkillers. He came back with pills and a soda, unaware of what was about to happen next. She took 2 pills to keep suspicion low, then quietly slipped the rest into his drink. It was a calculated move made under extreme pressure. At the gas station, the effects hit him by. He could barely stand, let alone stay in control. He eventually pulled into a motel in Wisconsin, where everything finally unraveled. The moment he collapsed, she acted immediately, forcing her way out of her restraints, working her hands against the cuffs until she managed to free one wrist. From there, she alerted law enforcement without hesitation. Lonnie Lynn Sr. was arrested on the spot, charged with kidnapping and false imprisonment. His basketball future ended right there in a motel parking lot in Wisconsin in a way nobody could have predicted when it all began. Common was raised mainly by his mother in Chicago's Calumet Heights neighborhood. Over time, he and his father eventually reached a complicated but real relationship. Not perfect, but something that existed in its own way. In later years, Lonnie Sr. even contributed spoken word to some of Common's music, adding another layer to their shared history. But the reality of how close everything came to going a completely different direction before Common ever wrote a single verse remains one of hip-hop's most intense survival stories. He made it out of that situation before he could even speak for himself, and that ending changed everything that came after. Lil Jon's son, Nathan Murray Smith, known in music as DJ Young Slade, was already building his own lane in the industry. That's Nathan Murray Smith, DJ Young Slade, speaking in one of his last recorded interviews. He was 27 years old, a rapper, producer, DJ, and a graduate of NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. At the time, a Paramount Plus docuseries about his father's legacy was in production, and a new single was preparing to drop on streaming. He had real momentum and every reason to be focused on what was next. But on February 3rd, 2026, Nathan suddenly ran out of his home in Milton, Georgia, about 30 miles north of Atlanta, on foot. At around 6 in the morning, without his phone, Milton police issued a missing persons alert, saying he may have been disoriented and in need of help. What followed was days of searching, K-9 units, community vigils, and a family holding on through uncertainty. And online, things quickly spun out of control. People started pushing theories about rivals, ops, and supposed footage, trying to attach meaning where there was none confirmed. But none of those claims came from law enforcement, and none were backed by verified sources as of February 6th, 2026.
And like I said, I apologize for the ones who were genuinely concerned.
Nathan's body was later recovered from a pond near the family home. Authorities stated that foul play was not suspected, keeping the official line strictly medical and procedural. The Fulton County Medical Examiner ruled it an accidental drowning, with psilocybin noted in the toxicology findings, adding another layer of confusion to an already painful situation. No kidnapping, no enemies, no ops. Lil Jon described Nathan as the kindest human being you could ever meet, full of warmth and real love for everybody around him. Passionate, thoughtful, and deeply caring, the type of person who made people feel seen just by being there. He called him an amazingly talented young man and shared that in their final moments together, they made sure Nathan truly understood how loved he was and how proud they were of everything he had become. No kidnapping, no enemies, Noah Mez, just a young man with his whole future ahead of him, who stepped out one February morning and never made it back home. Rest in peace. Nathan Smith, now shifting into something even heavier. The story of Bizzy Bone, because what he lived through before ever touching a microphone is on a completely different level of disturbing reality. Bizzy Bone, born Brian Anthony McCain on September 12, 1976 in Columbus, Ohio, was just 4 years old when everything changed. A child that young shouldn't be anywhere near that kind of danger, yet it unfolded inside his own home environment. His mother's ex-husband, a man with no biological ties to Bizzy but still with close and persistent access to the household, waited for the moment when Roseanne Jefferson left for work one morning. That's when everything shifted fast. He made his move and took Bizzy Bone. He took Bizzy Bone's 2 older sisters, Hope and Heather, and fled with all 3 children, disappearing without warning. What followed was a prolonged period of captivity that lasted over 2 years, marked by constant movement from place to place, including houses, apartments, and motels, making it extremely difficult for authorities to track them down. During that time, the children were isolated from their normal lives and repeatedly misled about their family situation and future. They were told that returning home was not possible, creating confusion and fear throughout their childhood years. The instability of constantly changing locations made the situation even more difficult to trace and resolve. Eventually, a breakthrough came in 1983 in an unexpected way. A babysitter caring for the children happened to see a televised missing children segment during a broadcast connected to the Adam Walsh case. A photo of young Bizzy Bone appeared on screen, and she recognized him immediately. Authorities were contacted, and law enforcement was able to locate and safely recover all 3 children, returning them to their biological mother. Bizzy Bone later spoke publicly years afterward, sharing parts of his early life experience and how it shaped him. But only after many years had passed and he was older. Every major hip-hop platform went into full alert mode, like the internet just hit a breaking point. Fans flooded YoungBoy comment sections, reactions pouring in non-stop, with real fear spreading fast as the clip jumped across every app at the same time. It moved like a shockwave. No slowing down, no stopping it. But then the story flipped completely. Later that same day, Arcola came back online with a calm, almost unsettling follow-up post. She confirmed she was completely fine and made it clear that people close to her didn't even panic because they already knew she was safe. The energy shift caught everyone off guard because it went from chaos to calm in a matter of hours. 2 days later, during a Twitter Spaces session, the full picture came out. She explained it was a prank that got out of control way faster than expected. A friend who was on the call didn't hold back either, calling the situation childish and warning her about the impact of posting things like that with such a large audience watching. At the end of it all, there was no police report filed from her side, no arrests, and no confirmed link to NBA YoungBoy's real-life conflicts or any documented rivalries. It ended up being a viral moment that traveled way further than intended, spreading across platforms before the truth caught up. And that's exactly why this story starts the list. Not for drama, but to show how fast misinformation can spiral when millions of eyes are watching and reacting in real time. The internet is already fully primed for stories like this. Stories about rappers, their families, danger, and situations that feel like they're spiraling out of control can spread instantly. One convincing enough prank, one believable clip, and suddenly an entire online community is mobilized in minutes. And honestly, you can't even fully blame people for reacting the way they did. The tone of that footage felt real, the details felt sharp, and even something as small as the mention of a hidden phone made the whole situation feel disturbingly believable. Arcola, by her own admission, has a very playful and sometimes childish on-camera personality, and in most cases, that energy had worked in her favor. This time, though, it went too far and moved faster than she ever expected. The lesson came with consequences, even if not the kind that left lasting damage, and in the end, she was safe. But not every story in this list ends with that kind of clarity or relief. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure to like, subscribe, share the video, and drop a comment letting me know which story hit you the hardest. And if you want more deep dives like this, click one of the cards on your screen right now to keep watching more videos.